يا لغتي عربية حسبي بأنك منطقي وبياني عربية قلبي
is in both the books to this day. And if you look at Isaiah 42, yes, you see the mention of a servant from God, yes, who the people of Selah and the people of Kedar, yes, the dwellers of Kedar, they will rejoice. And these both places, the people where the children of Kedar reside is in Saudi Arabia, and Selah is basically a mountain which is like very close to the Masjid al-Haram in Medina.
So that would be an example of the verses that are uncorrupt, that are within this corrupt body.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
exactly, yes.
I see what you're saying. But I'm still trying to reconcile what you've just said to mean that the Torah and the Injil have been identified as, apart from having a few shreds, it's almost gone the opposite. Instead of just having some corruption, it's totally corrupt, but with some shreds of light in it, seems to be the proposition that you've just made.
Yeah,
unless you could show me lots and lots more.
I didn't use the word shreds.
Sure, I know.
So what I'm saying is that the best way to identify which is corrupt, which is actually the true Torah and Injil, the remnants of that, is if the message agrees with the Quran and the Hadith, then
because it's the criteria.
That message then is, which is still the truth.
What do you think, Hashim, about Waraka's gospel? Because I didn't know he had one until, who was the guy who was your friend who was here before? What's his name? We had a good conversation.
Zakir, Zakir
when he said, and we both kind of smiled, where he said, you know, the Torah and the Injil have enough to bring you to Muhammad. He said, you know, there is enough truth still within the Torah and the Injil. And then he mentioned that Waraka had them. And I thought, I think about 6 months ago, I kind of made the claim that he couldn't have had them because they were being... But then, what do you think of this? This is Sahih Bukhari. It says...
Sorry,
no, this is really important. Come straight back. It's talking about Waraka. I'll be very, very brief on this. He said, Waraka, who was a Christian convert... Waraka. How say it again? I want to get it.
Waraka.
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 Waraka. Okay.
No need to say Ra, just Waraka.
Okay. I'm not going to say it now. Waraka, right? Who was a Christian convert and used to read the gospel in Arabic.
Yes.
Now this is saying there was a Arabic gospel that Waraka had that he used to read, and not only that, it also says during the pre-Islamic period, Waraka became a Christian, used to write the writing with Hebrew letters. He would write the gospel in Hebrew as much as Allah wished him to. And there's only one more verse here, and it also says Waraka became a Christian and used to write the Arabic writing and used to write the Gospels in Arabic. So the Gospels that Waraka was writing, were they corrupt or uncorrupt?
Look, what Waraka was writing is based on what he got from the other Jewish people. So he was a scribe. All he was doing is copying and pasting it. If you look in modern language today, that's all he was doing. As far as whether it was the truth, whether it was corrupt, that is something else. You see what I mean?
So what you're saying is, now, what Waraka was doing was writing from this corrupt Torah the true parts and writing them down, extracting from that.
Waraka was not a Muslim. Okay?
No,
so he wouldn't necessarily abide by the same rules that the Muslims would. So as Muslims, we would look it through the lens and the prism of the Quran and Sunnah, unlike Waraka.
Yes.
That's the difference between Muslims and people who are not Muslims, even at that time.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so going back to the first question which I asked you, how will you, as a Christian who believes in the sanctity and the truth within the Torah, which you have in your hands today, how will you verify what Moses said exactly after more than 1,000 years without any sources to back up the truth and verify it?
As far as is humanly possible to verify, and using the earliest as the truest being the route that I'm going to take, the proposition for you would be, can you show me a better method than the earliest? So you've just said that there's no way of confirming that my 900-year pre-Islamic Torah is actually the Torah that is being referred to even in this.
Yeah, but
can you see there's a dichotomy in what you've just said?
No.
Without this, and without you showing me any this is your only source.
No,
there is no other
we got the
Islamic
Quran.
source. But you...
We got the Quran, we don't need that.
But you've also got the Torah and the Injil.
No, but we don't need the Torah and Injil. Colin, you need to understand. You see, the Quran is called the criterion, yes? And it is something which supersedes everything that came before it.
Okay.
Yes?
Yeah.
Al-Furqan, the Quran is something which it's called Al-Muhaymin, yes?
Yeah.
Al-Muhaymin, which means it basically supersedes everything that came before it. And it is what we believe as the truth. Everything else for us is irrelevant. So, for example, let me tell you.
Yeah.
If there was no Torah remaining, not even a small part of it, yes, or there's no Injil remaining, not even a small part of it, it won't make an iota of a difference to us. Because as far as we are concerned, we got the Quran with us. And the Quran is enough for our salvation.
Do you ever...
We don't need the Torah and Injil.
Do you ever think why there are no even fragmentary evidences of this Quranically acceptable Torah and Injil, which you are required to believe? Why are there none? See this. Can I just read this one? It says,
but hold on, Colin. With all due respect, I've asked you this several times now. And you always project the question back to me. So once again, I'm asking you.
I'm going to hold on to what you're saying. Go on.
Without using the Quran, without using anything else, how will you verify the message that Moses gave you that you find in your Old Testament today?
I thought I actually had started to reply to that. It's because the copy...
How will you verify?
Sure. As far as is humanly ascertainable, all the archaeological evidence and the confirmation of the two communities, the Christians and the Jews, all confirm what I've got in my possession are the earliest.
What do you mean by archaeological? So have you got any archaeological evidence?
Do you know of any Jews? Do you know any Jews who reject the Tanakh?
Colin, I'm asking you. I'm not asking the Jews.
Okay.
I'm asking you.
Right.
Because you believe in the Old Testament from God. It's from God. Is that right?
I believe that the Old Testament is inspired by God and was accepted by the Jews whom we claim to descend from.
You mentioned archaeological evidence. Can you give me one archaeological evidence that Moses even existed?
One archaeological evidence.
Yes.
Well, you know, I could show you the temple.
Not that I don't believe Moses exists. Of course, as a Muslim, I believe Moses existed. But because you mentioned that to be your main criteria for verification, I would ask you,
that is a good
how
point.
would you verify that Moses even existed from archaeological evidence?
That is a very, very good point. Okay. Now, in the Torah, what we have, the Torah are the first 5 books. Some people use the word Torah interchangeably to mean the whole of the Old Testament, but the Torah isn't. It's the first 5 books.
No, actually, the Jews use a loose definition and a more specific definition.
It was disputed, but generally speaking, like in this Tanakh, it says Torah on the first 5 books.
First 5 books, that's fine.
Okay.
We can stick with that,
Hashim has just said, what evidences have you got concerning Moses outside of this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Archaeological evidences.
Right. Okay, just bear with me one moment. Right, see this? This is a picture of the Temple of Solomon. Okay, you'll find within the first 5 books of the Torah enmeshed, meaning they're not isolated verses you can pull out. Within the first 5 books, going from Genesis through to Deuteronomy, the whole history of the people is enmeshed in God's presence with them in temple worship. So let's just examine the Temple of Solomon. I take it you agree there was such a thing as the Temple of Solomon?
No, but that diagram you got, that was a recent picture. It's not something that you find. You cannot go to Israel and find the Temple of Solomon and take a picture of it. You know
this is based on the archaeological foundations that they found in Jerusalem, but also taken from the descriptions within the Torah. And here we have, look, this is a little bit more. You can actually see where the Holy of Holies was. Okay, now this is, I'm glad we've kind of developed here, because
I still want to know.
No, I will.
Yeah, Moses
the Jews know. The Jews.
So we know the temple exists.
Okay.
Let's say the temple exists. How do we know Moses existed then? If the temple existed, how do you know Moses existed? Because many people built temples then, back then.
You will find that in the Torah, the connection between Moses and God and the Jewish people from their captivity through to their release from captivity, through their journey in the wilderness, to the tabernacle which went with them, which was the tent of meeting where God dwelt, right through to the foundations of the temple, which was the house of God. And I've got every piece of evidence I need to...
I still can't connect that with Moses.
Okay.
How will you connect the dots to Moses?
Okay. Here we go.
Go on.
Right. Jews, when they pray in which direction? They pray towards the east. Okay.
Yeah.
When they're outside of the land of Israel, they pray towards Israel. When they're in Jerusalem, when they're in Israel, they pray towards Jerusalem. When they're in Jerusalem, towards the temple. When they're in the temple, towards the Holy of Holies. Okay, this is an undisputed fact. This is the reason they do that. And why do they point towards the Holy of Holies? Because it was the dwelling place of God.
Still no Moses.
Well, if you want to have a look through the Torah,
no, you have to tell me.
will see.
Colin,
I will.
The evidence for Moses. That's all. We're trying to establish that.
Okay. Right. The first action that happened to the Jewish people was when they escaped from the captivity in Egypt. And the Lord went before them by day and night in a pillar of cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire. The Lord went with them. Moses was with them. Moses,
is that from the Bible?
Moses, yes.
From the Bible? So this is called circular reference.
No.
You said you'll provide something outside.
I'll get to the punchline, which is the temple.
Outside the Bible.
Which is the temple. Then the cloud covered the tent of meeting. This is the proto-temple. What you see here is replicated in the foundations of the temple in Jerusalem.
Which is made up by an artist.
No, I will break it down. I'll break it completely down.
Let's see the evidence for Moses, because I still haven't seen one.
Okay. Now.
So you see how difficult it is even to produce simple evidence.
No, it isn't.
The existence of Moses,
very, very simple.
Let alone trying to find or verify what the Bible says or the Torah says that they hold today.
Okay.
This is just based on Colin's earlier assertion that there is evidence, archaeological evidence.
Yes.
We haven't found any archaeological evidence to suggest that Moses existed so far.
Okay. Have you found? Has there been archaeological?
Don't ask me question for a question. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I'll make this. I'm going to make this statement, right? The temple in Jerusalem very clearly shows that the Holy of Holies, the Ark of the Covenant, was placed in a sanctuary there, and you will see Moses' relationship all through the Old Testament, and the highlight of the whole thing is when God, who commanded this to be made,
that's made by an artist.
When that was placed, do you know where this ended up?
But that's made by an artist.
Okay.
Do you really think it looked like that?
Do you believe it existed?
Well, it might have existed. I'm not saying that. I need evidence.
Do you believe it existed?
Colin, I even know Moses existed. Okay? But what I'm saying is because you made this assertion that we have archaeological evidence, X, Y, and Z, then I want to hold you to that standard. You see what I mean?
Sure.
So once you make a statement, you need to substantiate it.
I will do.
So far, Colin, you haven't provided a shred of evidence to suggest that Moses existed from outside the Bible.
Okay. Go. I'm talking to you, not to the camera. Sorry, I keep looking at it. Okay, Hashim, can you see here, right? It actually shows a diagram of what was going on in the temple. Have you any knowledge about what goes on in the temple?
That wasn't my question.
No, but I'm going to build to the fact that Moses is intertwined with the whole of this history
there was
of the Jewish
burnt offerings
people.
And all that going on in that particular temple.
Do you know what the Holy of Holies was all about?
It was where they used to provide the burnt offerings.
No, see, this is where, when we first had this conversation, I struggled to understand how Hashim and Mansur could not identify this. This is the Ark. No, when this is a long time ago. This is a long time ago.
That's the first time you're showing me that picture.
What, today?
Yes.
This is the first time?
First time you're showing me this picture. So do not claim that Hashim and Mansur couldn't identify that, because when you talk about the tabernacle, which is what you're trying to show me there, this itself, do you think it actually looked like that, Colin?
Yes.
How would you know that?
Because it's described in here.
That is made by an artist.
If you want to
You don't have the artifact to provide evidence that it looked like that.
Here's one, look.
Exactly.
And let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. The pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of its furnishings are supplied by God in the Torah, which you are required to believe.
The pattern.
He designed it.
Okay, when you
designed this.
When you say the pattern, which verse mentions the pattern that the design look exactly like that? Let's see now from the Bible. Go on.
Okay.
Because I remember about the ark made by Noah. It gives the dimensions and everything. Okay, that's the same thing with the temple. It's got the dimensions and everything. But the Ark of the Covenant, the patterns, I would like to see that gone from the Bible.
Okay. 25:8. So what you're asking me, Hashim, is to
By the way, we
show
are again
you...
sidetracking because the question was about Moses.
Yeah.
The existence of Moses.
Exodus 25. The existence of Moses.
Yes.
You believe Moses existed?
As a Muslim, I believe, based on my scripture, but because you
Okay.
use the standard of archaeology,
Yeah.
I want to hold you for that particular standard that you asserted. So because you
Okay.
use archaeology, I would like
Yeah.
you to show us an archaeological evidence,
Yeah.
i.e. mention or a particular inscription, you know, like the hieroglyphics.
Sure.
They had inscriptions way before, even Moses' time, when they used to actually inscribe on the wall. So this particular statement that you made earlier, that we didn't have the papyrus, it would actually fall apart and all that. Look, there are other ways of preserving the text.
Hashim, if you
the
want
papers are not the only one. The
I can
papyrus is not the
show
only
you what we have in Exodus, going from Exodus 38 through to 40, is where God actually commands a whole array of different things to be made. He actually puts the pattern for the high priest's breastplate, for the ephod, for everything else. And this is where it actually brings Moses into it.
No, bring the tabernacle, because you were going to show us the reference to the tabernacle.
Then they brought the tabernacle to Moses.
Yeah.
Will that do you?
No,
then
that
they
won't do.
brought the tabernacle to Moses with a tent and its furnishings. They brought Moses and the tabernacle are intertwined. Would you agree?
So Colin, did you see any description of the tabernacle, what it looked like in that verse?
Okay. I'll
Then
get
I
to it.
didn't.
Yeah. So you're saying you doubt whether he designed it?
You show me the evidence from the Bible that the tabernacle
Hashim,
looked like this.
Hold on to this for me.
Looked like this particular diagram by an artist.
Yeah.
Which has got two little cherubs on it.
Okay.
With wings. So you got children, basically children without clothes with wings. These are called cherubs.
Yeah.
Yes?
Angels.
Isn't this what the Lord
Cherubim.
is going to use in the heavens or something? Is going to be.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll be riding that or
here you are.
something like that.
Here you are. Are you ready then?
Yeah,
okay. They shall make an ark of acacia wood. God is even telling you what wood it's made of. 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide. He gives you the dimensions.
Okay.
Right. Overlay it with pure gold. Overlay it inside and out, and make upon it a gold moulding around about. Cast 4 gold rings on it for the poles to go through. God is really giving you a lot.
Remember,
hang on, Hashim. Can I carry on?
Here.
Hang on. Make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. Then insert the poles into the rings and the side walls of the ark for carrying it. Look, you can see the rings, right, for carrying the ark. The poles shall remain and the rings of the ark shall not be removed. You shall make a cover of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide. Make 2 cherubim of gold. Make them of hammered work at the ends of the 2 covers. Make 1 cherub at one end and the other cherub at the other, and at one piece the cover you shall make a cherubim at 2 ends. This is very important. Do you know why the cherubim are there? Because you'll find out. The cherubim shall have their wings spread out above, shielding the cover with their wings. They shall confront each other, the faces of the cherubim being turned towards the cover. Place the cover on top of the ark after depositing inside the ark the pact which I will give you. You have every single piece of this ark commanded by God, and you are totally incorrect.
Listen to this, Colin. Do you see this design here? No, listen.
You aren't going to say what about this?
Yes, everything. Because what you're saying is that if it looked exactly like that, then it should have every single detail. For example, this big circle in the middle, which looks like some sort of a symbol. I don't know exactly what it is. But no mention of that here. Then we got some drawings in the corners here. Again, no mention of that in that the description that you gave there. The cherubs, how do we know what they look like? Just because they're made of gold doesn't mean they have to look like that.
Are you really saying?
So that's all. This is an artist's description.
Hang on. What we've got here,
from
just
the rough
for the camera.
description in the Bible.
Hang on. Look.
No, what I'm saying is that we cannot know exactly what it looks like.
Okay.
This is an artist representation, which is exactly what I told him earlier.
Okay. What we have here. Okay, can I just finish this off? Okay. What we have here is something that was commanded by God to be made. This is an artist's impression based on all of the instructions that God gave him. The two of those go hand in hand.
And a bit more.
Now,
and the artist added a bit more to it.
And we also have Moses involved. He was receiving the instructions. Now, Hashim said, where does Moses fit in?
It doesn't. Just because an artist made an inscription,
Go on.
made a representation of the Ark of the Covenant based on the Bible description.
Yes.
Remember what you said?
Based
You
on the
said-
Bible
wait.
description. The
You
Bible
said-
description
you
is very
said
important.
You have
Yeah.
archaeological evidence. Do we have the Ark of the Covenant in existence today?
No, we don't.
There you go.
No.
So it cannot be used as an archaeological evidence.
Okay.
What you're using again is circular reference from the Bible that it might have looked like that, and that's all it is. It has got nothing to do with archaeology. Colin.
Okay.
So back to square one.
Okay, now we'll move on. First of
No,
all,
we don't move on.
We've
You haven't provided
established-
evidence for Moses. I'm sorry.
Hashim asked me to provide him of any evidence that God gave instructions for no, first of all, no, what I just unpacked there wasn't to do with the archaeological things. It was
that's
to do
what I
with
asked you.
no. You asked me when it came to this. Show me anywhere, and they saw the picture. Show me where God commanded that to be made, that to be made, and that to be made.
no,
I showed you.
Colin, my first
almost
question was
word
what?
Perfect, exactly
It
what
wasn't,
God commanded.
it wasn't exactly like that. You know that very well. There was no
Semantics.
reference. Look, there's no mention of what these designs are. Do you agree?
So if they
We
went
don't-
away,
there's
would you
no
not
mention-
understand it?
No, look, I can make a little box here and we'll still match that particular
Okay,
reference. All I'm
okay.
saying is that how will you connect
Go on.
an artist's representation of what is mentioned in the Old
Very
Testament?
simple.
Wait. How
Very
will you connect this
Yeah.
to Moses?
Because his name is actually mentioned just prior to that whole description.
Yeah, but that's
is
still,
that not good enough?
That's still not archaeological evidence.
Okay.
So do you
Right.
agree? Look, either you admit that you don't have any
Hang on.
archaeological evidence to
Okay.
back up your claims,
Right.
or you just say the only evidence we have is the Old
okay,
Testament.
okay.
That's all.
No, I can understand where you're coming from.
Good.
You're saying this in itself is no more evidence than basically we're going in a circular argument to is this authentic?
Exactly, my point, yes.
Okay,
Finally.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
The only other layer of evidence I can bring to bear is the fact that we both agree the temple existed. Do we both agree that the temple existed?
The temple
It's not a
existed
trap.
at one time, yeah.
Okay. Do you know what the temple was for?
For prayers. What else the temple is for? It's for worship, isn't it?
Do you know why the temple was built?
To basically cover the holies of the holies.
Okay, this is where the gap between what the monotheists understood and what you can understand based on the scant evidence in the Quran. There's a world away from the reality of
I
what
did
the
not
Jews
even mention the
understand.
Quran. So
No.
I think,
Colin,
Colin,
this is
wait. With all due respect,
Yeah.
when you make statements like that,
Sure.
yes, without
Yeah.
any evidence, did I mention the Quran?
No,
I did not.
No, I wasn't making
don't
it.
say
no,
scant evidence
When
is in
I
the
said
Quran.
scant, compared to the evidence that I've got here in my Torah and the references, you would agree that the Quranic references to the Old Testament would at the very best be scant in compared to all of this.
Okay.
And you don't need them. I'm not saying you need them.
Exactly. So the Quran did not come. The
Yes.
Quran did not come
Sure.
to prove to us what is in the Old Testament. The Quran is a book
Yeah.
that was given to Prophet Muhammad, the
Confirming
last,
what came before.
the last messengers,
Yeah.
confirming not only what came before in terms of the teachings,
Okay.
also confirming the previous prophets and the messengers.
Right.
Yes? No, I did not. What I'm saying is that it confirms that Moses existed, that Jacob existed,
And the temple
that,
existed?
that Noah existed,
And the
that
temple?
Adam existed.
And the temple?
I don't think there's any mention of the temple in the Quran from what I know. I might be
this is
mistaken.
my point, this is my
But
point.
wait a minute. Colin,
The detail is lacking.
Yeah, we don't need the details for our salvation.
This is the difference between us. The details are available, but you say that they're not reliable.
Okay, no.
Would that be correct?
Don't change what I said. I
asking you.
said the details are not necessary because they are not required for our salvation.
Okay, I understand it. Because the Quran is the final revelation,
Yes.
because the Quran is
Its
the
focus
criteria, I
is
can
on
understand.
revelation.
Essentially,
And worship
the
of Allah.
Quran is your method of exegesis.
No.
It is.
No, it's not.
Because the buck must stop.
The
If it-
Quran.
you can't believe in anything that the Quran doesn't validate.
The Quran and the Sunnah, both.
Okay,
So we have the
okay.
Quran and the Sunnah. Okay. So
Right.
because I asked Colin to prove to us Moses existed from the Bible,
Sure,
from outside
sure.
the Bible, unfortunately you were unable to do that. Even though you tried, but you were
So,
unable.
I was unable
You were
to-
unable to prove Moses existed without reference to the Bible.
Without reference to the
Yes.
Bible.
So from archaeological perspective, you were unable to prove the existence of Moses.
Do you think,
Can we agree on that?
Do you think the Talmud confirms that Moses existed?
The Talmud. Again, the Talmud. When you talk about the Talmud, the oral tradition
Yeah.
of the Jewish people.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, it's from the scriptures.
The oral tradition of the people who gave us the Old Testament, the Torah, have always uniformly involved Moses as the centerpiece of their whole religion. He was the person, he was the patriarch of patriarchs. Are you trying to say that there's, unless I can...
That's still not archaeological evidence.
Okay, okay.
So shall we agree there is no archaeological evidence which
Right.
you claimed earlier with
Okay.
regards to Moses? Are you going to agree
With
upon
regards
that?
to Moses?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, this isn't archaeological evidence.
What?
The
Talmud.
Torah. The Torah.
No,
Not the Talmud.
please.
No, I'm agreeing with you. Allow me to agree with you. That's not a trap. I agree with you. I'm agreeing with
So
you.
you agree
I'm
what?
saying,
That
I'm
there is no
saying to
archaeological
you
evidence?
that my claim I can give you archaeological evidence has not been backed up by my reference to the Talmud or to the Torah.
Okay, so as far as Moses is concerned, we
Okay.
don't have any archaeological evidence.
To prove that he existed.
Yes.
Do we need any?
As believers, we don't need it.
Yeah.
But because that is a claim you make.
Sorry, yeah.
No, Colin. Because that was the standard you used.
Yeah.
You know, remember.
Moses is not a piece of archaeological...
Colin, we were discussing
Yeah.
about the hadith. Yes.
Okay.
I told you that we have the science of hadith. We have
Yeah.
the chain of narration.
Sure.
We have the matan, the body itself, to verify.
Right.
We have the ilm al-rijal, which is basically every single node within the chain of narration.
Sure.
We know who they were. We know their biographies. Yes.
Yes.
You, on the other hand, have a 1,000-year gap, which you cannot fill without. The only way you can ascertain. Sorry. The
Yeah.
only way you will believe what Moses said is basically take at face value
Okay.
what you have in the extant manuscripts or in the Pentateuch
Okay.
or in the Dead Sea Scrolls,
Right.
which again date to 1,000 years after Moses.
Okay, well, you know...
Wait.
Yeah, go on, please do.
The difference between that
Yeah.
and the hadith that we have, even the weakest hadith,
Yes.
the da'if hadith we have, yes, even the da'if hadith, the weak hadith, they have the chain of narration, they have the matan, they have the ilm al-rijal to back it up. But you see,
Yeah.
unfortunately for the Christians and the Jews,
Go on.
they do not have such a rich science to verify their scriptures. All you have to say is, yes, this is what we found in the Dead Sea Scroll
Okay.
in a desert a long time ago, and we are going to believe that is exactly what the people believed when Moses used to preach the
Right.
Torah.
Yeah.
But you see, this is a claim. This is nothing
Okay.
that you can verify.
You know what? The problem exists, though, in a whole ream of Quranic verses that actually confirm these books that you're saying I can't prove to be true.
So you need the Quran to verify your book.
For you, I do.
But it's not for me. I'm asking about you. How
well,
will
this
you
is it.
verify?
See, I
so
can...
many times I've asked you
No,
this question,
no,
Colin.
no.
How will you verify? Not how will I
Hang on,
verify.
hang on.
How will you, as a believer,
Yeah.
verify? Now you're saying the only way you will fall back is on the Quran. Seriously?
Right, no, for you, because it's the only
It wasn't
evidence
for
that
me.
you
The
would
question
take.
is for you, my friend.
Okay.
How
Well,
will Colin
we've been down
verify
here
that
before.
the Old Testament that
Okay.
you have today in
Right.
possession, which you have a 1,000-year gap between the
Yeah.
extant,
Let me have a go,
earliest
Hashim. Let me have a
extant
go.
manuscript.
Okay, what I have here is a 900-year predating Torah to the Quran. This is the Torah that was accessible by the community of people called the Jews, the ones on whom we base our being people of the book. The monotheistic foundations, they accept this book. They do not dispute it. They don't dispute anything in this book. This has been accepted uniformly within the whole history of Judaism, and from the earliest copies, this is it. Now,
That doesn't prove it, does it?
Hashim is
That's a
saying...
claim. That's a claim.
Hashim is saying that the fact that this predated Muhammad by 900 years, it doesn't authenticate it. Now, the only way that he can coherently undermine this is to produce me something early.
Colin.
Can you produce
Colin,
me
you know what you have done there? When I asked you
go
the
on.
question,
Yeah.
you put the question back on me. Look, I don't need... Hold on, Colin. Listen to the question.
I hope I haven't,
The
but go on.
problem is you're not listening.
Go on.
Listen to the question.
Yeah.
The question is for you as a Christian.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Because you believe that the Old Testament and the New Testament
Yes.
are both revelations from God.
I do.
They're both inspirations from God.
Yes.
Now you see, before the Quran came, like you said, 600 years or even more, like 2,000 years
Sure.
since Moses, whatever you say,
Yeah.
despite that, regardless of that,
Yes.
how will you, Colin, if you were in the time of, say, before Muhammad, 100 years before Muhammad, before even the Quran was revealed.
Okay, 500 AD,
Yeah,
something
listen.
like that, yeah.
Yes. Before Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was even born.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Let's say you were a believing Christian. You had that book in your hand.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
How will you, Colin,
Yeah.
verify what Moses said more than 1400 years, or sorry, in that time it will be like 1900 years.
Sure.
Yes?
Sure. Yeah.
how will you verify it?
I'd ask the Jews.
And you'll take it at face value?
I would.
You would?
Yep.
So the Jews will tell you...
Who would you ask?
Wait.
Who would you ask?
Wait a minute. One at a time.
Yeah.
So the Jews will tell you... The Jews will tell you...
They'll show me.
No, they will tell you...
They won't tell me, they will show
They
me.
can show you. So you're telling me that if they show you the book, you'll believe it.
They will show me a copy that predates Muhammad by 900 years.
You keep saying that. Is that like a point you're trying to score there?
No, the point is...
Just because it predates something doesn't mean it's true.
If you can't show me...
Otherwise you'll become a Hindu. You know, the Bhagavad Gita predates the Old Testament by so many hundreds and thousands of years. But the thing is, you wouldn't believe in the Bhagavad Gita as the original
We're confined, unfortunately, with time and space and matter. So as far as asking for evidence, matter meaning physical things, right? When you say to me, show me evidence.
Yes. How will you verify what Moses said?
And I go back to the very earliest evidence.
Which
and
is?
you claim,
Which is how many years?
hang on, but you're saying you need to prove this wrong. I don't need to prove this right. The onus is on you because you are making the claim.
You're the one who believes in.
Yes.
I don't need to believe in it.
Right.
All I need to know is that Torah was given to Moses and the Injil was given to Isa.
Show me where the corruptions are.
Colin, wait a minute. Let me finish.
Yeah.
As a Muslim, all I'm required to believe is that the Torah was revealed to Musa alayhi salam and the Injil was revealed to Isa alayhi salam.
Yeah.
So as far as my faith is concerned, yes, I already believe that. I don't need to produce actual evidence to believe that. Right. That is my faith. Wait
you don't need to produce any evidence.
Colin, wait a minute.
Okay.
By faith. I can believe that by faith it was given to him. I also know that over time these books were corrupted and things were added in it and things were removed from it. Again, this is mentioned in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 79, in Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 38, and so on. Right. So this evidence is already there in the Quran that these books were corrupted. However, the Quran and the Sunnah do not say...
Pennies dropped, I understand.
No, I haven't finished. The Quran and the Hadith do not say that all of the Old Testament and all of the New Testaments have been corrupted. Right. It does not say that. Yeah. But there is corruption in it. Right. It does mention that.
Okay, Hashim, what you're saying...
Let me finish.
Then...
I haven't finished. You need to understand the question I'm asking you. The question I'm asking you is that without you using evidence, i.e. the Quran, because you know you don't believe in the Quran, you don't believe in the Sunnah.
Yeah, and I'm not required to either.
Yeah, exactly. So for you to take support from the Quran and the Hadith would be pointless because you don't believe in it.
This is what puzzles me.
What?
I'm not required to believe in my faith, the Quran. Hashim, on the other hand, is bound to accept this surah. O people of the scripture, you are nothing until you uphold the Torah and the gospel and what has been revealed to you. So what Hashim is saying, I need to provide evidence that goes back beyond the 900 years prior to the Quran, but the only evidence he needs to provide is evidence 900 years later than my evidence.
No, I don't.
No, because your your sole root, your sole source of evidence is something that came 900 years after this.
No, that's not my sole evidence.
Well, what other evidence have you got?
My sole evidence is the Quran.
Well, I've just said that.
Okay. Read that verse again, the one you just read.
Can we just confirm that what you've just said?
What?
I made the statement that your evidence, your source of evidence is 900 years later than my evidence. I'm not required. No, the point I'm saying is you're asking me to provide you with archaeological evidence, scriptural evidence, a whole raft of evidences that actually predate the evidence I've got to show that it goes right back to Moses. This is what you're asking.
And you haven't been able to provide that.
What I'm saying to you is, I can give you evidence. I can give you a quantity of evidence.
You tried, but you failed.
Hang on. And the only evidence you've got is something which is written 900 years after this that I'm not even required to believe in.
No, hold on.
This is what I don't understand.
You see that?
It doesn't make sense.
You see, this is where we differ. Why do you think I asked you for archaeological evidence?
Yes.
Because that is what you claim you have.
Okay.
But when I actually questioned you on it, it turns out you don't have anything.
Pin me down on it.
I did.
Right, pin me down again on it.
Okay.
Pin me down.
Pin you down?
Okay.
Wait. First and foremost, do you agree that that is the evidence that you claim you had?
I'm claiming that there is archaeological evidence to support the existence of the temple, and I can show you very clearly from the people of the book what the purpose of the temple was.
But my question wasn't about the temple. Remember, my question was about Moses. And you said you had archaeological evidence.
Archaeological evidence that links the existence of Moses with the temple. Is what I've done, and I succeeded in doing that.
Colin, you know how you
succeeded very well in doing that.
You know how you link Moses to the temple,
This.
if there was an inscription on the temple, wait, no, that is not archaeology. If you
but it
find,
links him to the archaeology.
if you find an inscription on the temple that mentions the name of Moses, for example, then it would link Moses to the temple archaeologically. What you're saying, you have evidence in here. Wait, Colin.
Go on,
I don't think you understand the meaning of archaeological evidence. In order for you to
Moses
link
is
Moses,
not archaeological.
no, I didn't say Moses. I said the evidence of Moses' existence.
Yeah.
Yes. Inshallah.
Yeah.
Is for you to find an inscription
Yes.
on a temple,
Gotcha.
and then I would say yes.
Okay.
You have a link to Moses,
Okay, I
and
get
this
you.
is proved.
Tell me what you think of this.
archaeologically.
Tell me if you think this is an adequate answer to what you've just said.
Yeah, go on.
You tell me. Right. What I've tried to do, and I think I've already proven it, I'm trying to link Moses with the archaeological evidence of the temple. I can't provide you with archaeological evidence of Moses because I don't know where his bones are. But
That's all I
I
wanted
can
to
show
know.
you that in the history of the Jewish people,
They had a
Moses and the temple. Now, the temple is my link to the archaeological evidence.
it's not.
It is.
It's not. Unless you find an
It
inscription of Moses in the temple, then you'll have an archaeological evidence
I
of Moses.
read you-
All you have is an archaeological evidence that a temple existed. And even
thanks.
then, this
Yeah,
temple, what have you got of the temple today?
Go on.
The Western Wall?
Right.
The Western Wall was basically built much later on.
I'd ask the Jews that
You know
one.
the stones you see there? These are not the real
Yeah,
stones.
yeah.
These were
Unfortunately,
built later on.
Hashim, in the Quran, does it mention the temple or anything to do with its specifications or its purpose? Does it mention
No,
it?
it doesn't. Not that I know of.
It does in here. And this has never been disputed by the history of the Jewish people going way, way back. In fact, there is no recorded part of the history of the Jewish people that does anything else but validate what I've just said. And you say, hang on, are you saying?
But Colin,
that-
I never
Go on.
asked you about the existence of the temple.
Right.
You see, you keep going back to the temple because that's
Yes.
the only thing you have archaeologically available.
Of course. Yeah, what else
But you
would
see,
there be?
the reason you want to now focus on the temple
Yes.
is because you're unable to answer my question about the evidence of Moses.
What I'm trying to do, I'm trying to link Moses with the temple and show that the story, if you want, you can't pick the temple and Moses apart. They are enmeshed.
I'm not picking them up.
No, but this is my
I'm
point.
asking you, where's the evidence that
Okay.
Moses existed unless you show me an inscription in the temple that mentions Moses. But because you do not have that from 2,000-year-old, sorry, not
okay.
2,000, in the case of
Yeah.
Moses it will be
As in he
3,500
scratched it into the
So
concrete.
if you have a
or-
3,500-year-old evidence of an inscription that mentions Moses, then
Okay.
that would be considered as archaeological evidence.
Okay.
In the absence of that, all you have is faith.
Right,
That's not
okay.
archaeology.
Well, look, I'm going to give you some...
I think we're going in circles. I think.
Okay, yeah, do you want to call it?
we should call it a day unless.
Okay, fair enough.
What I'm saying is, Colin, do
Yeah,
not
and
make.
I'll have one last little bit
do
if I
not
could.
make assertions that you
Okay.
cannot substantiate. Yes,
Okay.
I can show you things from the Quran. I can show you. You can show me things from the Bible.
Yeah.
But you see, that is something which is faith-based. But obviously, there are things within the Quran and within the Bible which you can back up from archaeology. I'm not saying there
Okay.
aren't any.
Okay. Yeah.
All I'm saying is that when it comes to certain things, like for example, I showed you a gap of more than 1,000 years between the extant manuscripts that you have today of the Old Testament and the time of Moses, more than 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Now, how will you fill this gap? You said you have archaeological
That's interesting.
Wait,
That's
wait.
really
You said you have
interesting.
archaeological
Yeah.
evidence.
Yeah.
And then I asked you, can you show me Moses existed from
Yeah.
archaeological
Yeah.
evidence?
Yeah.
And all you were able to show me is a temple. And even the temple, which you showed me, is actually an artist's representation of what the temple might have looked like.
Okay.
Yes?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is, look, this is nothing, there's nothing wrong in that, an artist imagining what the temple might have looked like. But as far as the archaeological evidence for Moses is concerned,
I can see where you're coming from.
there is none.
Hashim, just kind of to round this up.
Yeah, sure, go on.
Because in Leviticus, God is saying to Moses, the Lord says to Moses, tell your brother Aaron, he shall not enter at any time into the holy place. Now, unfortunately, Hashim didn't know what the holy place was or its purpose behind the veil. Before the mercy seat, I read out the description of the mercy seat. The mercy seat was in between the two cherubs, which is clearly referenced here in my Torah.
You didn't tell us what was the purpose, by the way.
Seat which is on the ark, or he shall die. I will appear in the cloud above the mercy seat. That's the purpose. Can I just
Sorry,
finish
what is
off
the
with
purpose
this?
again?
The purpose of the mercy seat is where the presence of God would appear on the day of Atonement.
Yeah.
Once a
What
year.
happens on the Day of Atonement?
This
Hold
is
in.
it. This is the Day of Atonement.
What happens on the Day of Atonement?
Huh?
What do they do on the Day of Atonement?
The corporate sins of the Jewish nation are atoned for in vicarious sacrifice.
Exactly. So what happens to the sacrifices afterwards?
The
Yes.
blood of the
Which is
bull
exactly
is
what I
taken
said.
into.
Thank you very much.
The blood of the bull is taken into
Which
the
is
temple.
exactly what I said. They used to actually, they used to put the burnt offerings
Yeah.
in this place, in the holies of holies,
Yeah.
yes, and then some sort of a flame would appear. Am I right? Yes. So don't tell me I didn't know this.
No, earlier on you said you didn't.
No, I said I told you, but you were not
said to
listening.
me
No, I said they would put the burnt offerings.
sacrifices, you said the sacrifices happened in the Holy of
No,
Holies,
I didn't
which
say
they
that. I
don't.
said the burnt offerings were put there. Did you not hear?
No, the blood of the burnt offering. The burnt offering couldn't be put in there because it was being
Okay, the
burnt.
blood.
The
Now
blood
you're getting
was
technical
taken
with
on.
me.
No, the blood is the
Okay,
blood
anyway,
of the
look.
covenant. Anyway, Hashim, you
Yeah.
know, God bless you. I mean, that was a little bit fine, but we did well. I think we did
Yeah.
well. I'm happy with it.
Anyway.
I'm happy with it. God bless
Okay,
you.
thank you very much, Colin,
Yeah,
for
sure thing.
for the discussion.
Yeah.
All right,
Who wants
Jazakallah
their
khair.
buzzers,
Assalamu alaikum
yeah?
wa rahmatullah,
Yeah.
brothers and sisters in Islam. First of all, I would like to say Eid Mubarak to everyone, and Jazakallah khairan for supporting us and for helping us and making dua for us, especially for the da'wah in the park. And maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided us this opportunity in the park every Sunday to give da'wah. And alhamdulillah, we got brothers like Colin who have discussions and we learn from each other. Yes? So sometimes a dialogue turns into a debate, and a debate might get a bit...
Can I own up to a mistake?
we get carried away sometimes. And
You know, I think part of the problem is we don't ask for God's blessing on the conversation, which we should. Yeah. We should ask for God to be here. And can I just say, as a Christian, the Lord thy God is one. Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one. I believe in one God.
Alhamdulillah.
Amen.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
And we associate no partners with him. No, give it to the owners. So yeah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and jazakallah khairan for your support and for your duas and for sometimes you guys help us as well in the comment sections, alhamdulillah. So we learn from you guys as well, because sometimes we, obviously as being humans, we make mistakes and you correct us, and we take that on board positively. So criticism, if it's constructive, is welcome. That goes for both the Muslims and the non-Muslims. So as humans, we make mistakes. We are learning constantly during the process of the da'wah as well. And inshallah, you guys are learning as well from the knowledge that we provide over here. So alhamdulillah, like they say, seeking knowledge is from the cradle to grave, and we should all aspire to gain as much knowledge as possible, both in terms of ilm of the deen and ilm of the dunya as well. So we can make the most of it in this dunya, and which will benefit us in the akhirah as well. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
يا لغتي عربية حسبي بأنك منطقي وبياني عربية قلبي